What is going on, YouTube? This is Jebus with the Beer and Peanuts Gaming Guild. Today I will be providing you an update to the Jebus Templar Tank build. We're going to call this the 2.0 version. In my last video I discussed the idea of utilizing a bow as needed for the various fight mechanics, and I've since that point incorporated a bow into the build as a third weapon set. I'm going to discuss attribute allocations. I'm going to discuss all three of the weapon skill setups. I'm going to go over passives. I'm going to tell you what type of gear you're going to want to run with. I'm going to tell you the type of food that you're going to want to go out and get, the add-ons that I currently use, and more importantly, I'm going to lay the foundation for future videos to come. So let's get into it. Alright guys, moved into the point allocation. I like to use a 1, 2, 3 distribution. I put 1 point magicka, 2 point health, and 3 point stamina. I'm not going to go into details related to these white numbers right now. And the reason why I'm not going to go into these numbers is because I'm still leveling. I'm level 47. The gear that I have on my character currently is a hodgepodge. It's a mess. It's whatever I had in my bag, whatever was not destroyed, and it was available for use. So one of the things I will recognize though here is my health recovery. A question came up, and I think in my first video related to being a vampire tank, specifically the health recovery. Here it is. So I've got a 27 out of 45. I am sitting in the worst stage possible for health recovery right now as a vampire, and at a stage 4 vampirism. It regenerates at 75% lower. If you're doing the math, that is not 75%, and the reason why that is because I actually have a lot of passives that offset that number as it is right there. But this is worst case scenario. Now, I think my response to that question was in relation to the other passives that I feel far exceed the issue with the health recovery. I do not go into dungeons in stage 4, nor do I leave dungeons in stage 4. I generally go in stage 1, come out, worst case scenario, early stage 3. That's worst, it's a worst case scenario. So that's kind of where it's at right now. There's also the issue related to fire resistance. I'm a dark elf. I also have a pretty high spell resistance overall. I don't see fire resistance being an issue for me. I'm still early on, so maybe I haven't ran into what they're talking about yet. But as far as I've seen, not too big of an issue for me being a vampire tank. So we're going to move into the gear setup. Alright, for this build we're going to be using 7 pieces of heavy armor. You're going to be looking for max magicka enchants. If you can find these, that's awesome. If you can't and you're still leveling, no biggie. I talked about it earlier, you know, these are just numbers. If you're still playing the game, you're still leveling, you're not dying a ton, there's no point rushing out paying gold just to get a max enchant that you'd like to have. For the accessories, you're looking for recoveries. You're looking for magicka recovery. You're looking for stamina recovery. I would say use your own judgment on this one. If you find that you use a lot of stamina, or you hit a lot of stamina a lot more than you thought you would, you know, throw a stamina recovery in there, and of course, you know, increase your maximum stamina. So either one's fine with me, magic or stamina. Now for the weapon sets, you have your dual wield, you have your sword and board, and of course you have a bow in your bags ready to go just in case. Now, the specific enchant that I really like are these damage shield buffers. They basically provide you an additional amount of health, and anytime you can have this up is a good thing. So I would say any weapon that you can have these damage shield buffers on, go for it. Now for the shield that you're going to be running, I like to put the max magicka on there as well. Once again, we're trying to offset what we previously discussed in our point allocations. We want to make this build well-rounded, and so by putting our max magicka stacks on our gear, we're bringing it that much closer to the completion of the build. So let's go on to discuss the actual weapon skills that we're going to be using at this point. So as of right now, we're going to start out going over the sword and board. I'm not going to go into details regarding the passives because I'm going to cover that here in a little bit. But I'm just going to show you which skills that I'm currently using. I'm going to explain to you as to why I find that these skills are valuable for that specific setup. Right now I'm using Ransack for my, this is my sword and board. So I'm using Ransack, Puncturing Sweep, Honor the Dead, Repentance, Absorb Magic, and Devouring Swarm. Now, the big thing as a tank here you know, you don't want too many stamina based skills. On the contrast to that, you don't want too many magicka based skills. So let's just go over what we have here. We have a stamina based here, and we have a stamina base here, and of course this is our ultimate. Repentance is free. So the only two things that I'll be using magicka for in my tank spec are Puncturing Sweep and Honor the Dead. Now in most cases when I'm on a boss fight, I refrain from using Puncturing Sweep if I can. There are those times where the boss will summon some mobs. This is a great AoE attention starter, and from there you can go into your you know, your ransack, which increases your armor. So for the most part, I try to stay away from this on single target mobs. If you know, if I have surplus, if I'm sitting pretty high in magicka, I'll take a couple swipes at them. But for the most part, this is the magicka taker, and it doesn't keep you alive. This, however, does. And Honor the Dead, I only use this when I drop below the 50% because that takes advantage of the spell cost, the regeneration over time there. So that's the only time I'll actually ever use this. I generally will try to stay away from this at all costs because it is such a high magicka cost, but it does the job. And a lot of times I'll get into a group with a healer where they won't use a big heal. They will use the regenerations over time. And you know, sometimes as a tank, you take some pretty heavy hits and you need a big heal. So this is what I use to offset say a healer that might not get the heal off, or various things like that. So I mean, there's a lot going on in a fight. You never really know what's going on from other people's perspectives. So Honor the Dead is a great filler. Repentance, I love this thing, man. It restores 159 stamina, 159 health per nearby corpse. I go through it. I use a lot. I sometimes just spam it because I think it looks neat, but for the most part, very effective, especially on in bosses where they're summoning a lot of mobs. And this is a cool thing too. It actually works off your allies. I've procced this thing off my allies and picked up a little extra stamina and health off of them. Feel bad that they died, but you know, you got to take advantage of that situation. So we also have Absorb Magic. Now in many cases I'm kind of running into the bosses when they actually use a magicka attack against you. Sometimes Absorb Magic doesn't do its job. It doesn't actually absorb the spell. You still get hit by it. However, what it does do is it reduces the cost of block by 8% when it's slotted. So by doing that, and the fact that I have some passives, and we'll talk about that, my block is very, very cheap. So that's the current spec, or current slots I'm using for that. Now let's talk about dual wield, which actually I don't have up. So I guess we'll talk about bow first. So the bow, and this is the thing that you're going to want to use when you kite mobs. I'm using Inner Fire, I'm using Magnum Shot, Honor the Dead, Repentance, and Blazing Shield, and of course Devouring Swarm. Now the big thing here is your Inner Fire is your range taunt. It's extremely effective for pulling mobs, obviously from a distance, which is what you want to do in situations where you have to kite but yet still maintain that aggro. Magnum Shot is extremely effective as well, because when a boss is coming at you, you use this to push yourself away from them, and I don't think it disorients them. I think for the most part they ignore that aspect of it, but the fact that you're able to knock yourself away gives you that much additional room to kind of you know, move out of the sight there from an attack. Honor the Dead, of course, you got to keep that in there because once again, you don't know when you're going to be hit big, and that's really nice. Blazing Shield, I might take this out. I just dropped it in there because it gives you a little extra HP for the fight. It's at 30% damage shield lasts 6 seconds. On a boss fight, it may be able to save you. I don't know. I like it in there as of right now. I really haven't found anything else that I want to put that in there. So as we're actually watching here, I'm going to go ahead and slot up my dual wield spec. So I use Blood Craze. I use Whirling Blades. I use Blazing Shield's already in there. Reflective Light. I'm looking for it. This is actually, there we go. Here we go. Okay, so this is cool. This is why I'm really enjoying the build right now. So I've got Blood Craze, Reflective Light, Volcanic Ruin, Whirling Blades, and Blazing Shield. So the idea behind this setup is to obviously do AoE damage without just throwing a ton into Magicka and without throwing a ton into Stamina. So I will start out a mob. So let's just say I'm about to attack a mob. I start out, I cast Absorb Magic, okay? And I switch over to my dual wield spec, which is what I always carry on any type of trash mob. And I've got Reflective Light. I drop Reflective Light in, that snares them. Okay, so they're moving slow already. Then I'm going to drop Volcanic Ruin. That places it down. Now Volcanic Ruin is so cool. They'll walk across it, they'll get tossed in the air. It's an extremely effective spell. It doesn't cost a lot. I've got a couple passives that I've built into it, so not a huge cost. But more importantly, what this does, it allows me the second to get Blazing Shield off. So I drop the Blazing Shield. Now I've got a health buffer there, and if they destroy that health buffer, they're going to take an additional amount of damage. So in the meantime, I might drop a couple Whirling Blades, drop another Blood Craze, depending on how everything looks. I might stay in my dual wield, or I might have to swap back over here, use a little Repentance to, you know, pick up whatever's been downed and whatnot. So that's pretty much it for the dual wield spec. So we've went over the sword and board, we've talked about the bow, there's the dual wield, and let's go ahead and talk about the passives now. Alright, we're going to start out going through the Adric Spear tree. I've got 3 passives. I got Spear Wall, Burning Light, Balance Warrior. Spear Wall is great for the tank spec because as long as you have one of these slotted, you have the option of increasing your block amount versus the melee attack, and it just so happens that the one I do have slotted goes extremely well with Burning Light, because for every one time I use this, it pretty much guarantees 151 additional damage. Balance Warrior, increase your weapon damage along with increasing your spell resistance. That's free stuff, you have to have that, that's good. Moving into our Dawn's Wrath tree, we have Prism. It bestows 2 additional ultimate upon activation of a Sun ability. Well, here's our Sun ability. We have Reflective Light slotted in our dual wield tree, so that is going to happen. Restoring Light, reduce the ability of your Magicka stamina and ultimate cost by 2%. Once again, that's free, that decreases your cost, that's good. Going back to the Restoring Light tree, I'm looking at Mindy now. Increases critical strike chance on allies by up to 30% while using a Restoring Light ability. Well, Honor the Dead is a Restoring Light ability, thus I have a chance to increase that by 30% critical chance, so that's good. Master Ritualist, I just picked this up recently. It looks pretty good. I've actually never had to res anybody in the middle of a fight like this, but it seems to be something that everybody should really have if you're playing a Templar, just to have it. So moving into our weapon tree, so we have the one-handed, max it all. I'm not even going to spend time on this, you just max everything. Okay, dual wield. Once again, this is our second most usable weapon set, and guess what? I max it all here too. Our bow tree. Now this is something I haven't really thrown a lot of points into, and I'll tell you why. Up until to this video, I only had a couple extra skill points, and that was because I was testing a lot of things, throwing a lot of points around. So what I'll probably end up doing is tossing a lot of these skill points into the bow lineup. Even though I don't use the bow a ton, it is still there and it needs to serve a purpose. So right now I do have a couple points in the Ranger, which reduces the stamina cost. Well, so I thought, well, if I'm going to use Magma Shot, might as well make it cheaper, right? So that's why I use that. Heavy Armor, 7 slots, everything needed. World, Soul Magic. You're going to want Soul Lock. This starts out as a 5% chance, and if you upgrade it and spend a skill point, it still says 5%. So that's I'm assuming that's an incorrect tooltip. But going on to the Vampire tree, we have all of these except Savage Feeding. I want to talk about the right here, Undeath. So I talked previously about the Vampire and the passives. This is one of the major passives that I really like as a Vampire. Increases damage mitigation when player is below 50% health. Damage mitigation can increase up to 50% as health decreases. This is huge. I mean, essentially, you're getting, so if you have like 100 points left in your health, you're getting 150 points because of this undeath skill. Now, here's the problem with a lot of the vampire passes as of recently. I've noticed that when you die, your supernatural recovery disappears. My concern is that the undeath disappears as well, and some of these other passives disappear. So I don't know if it's working as designed right now. I'll be interested to see if I just feel like a little bit OP once I hit below 50%. But as of right now, the way this thing reads, that sounds awesome. All right, guild skills. I do have Intimidating Presence. I would highly recommend anybody to grab that. Banish the Wicked. Bestows 3 ultimate when killing an undead or Daedric enemy. We kill these things all the time. You might as well get the additional ultimate. In addition to this, I've been going back a lot and soloing some of the early content dungeons just to see if I can pick up some easy chest, which I haven't been successful with, but I have been making it through the dungeons themselves. And one of the things that I found, that if I go through dungeons where a lot of undead or ultimate, I'm at least able, or Daedric enemies, I'm at least able to generate an ultimate, which has been I don't know, it's been pretty good. It's helped out a lot. Passives. Now, I do use in my dual lineup the Volcanic Rune. So let's talk here. We got Persuasive Will, which kind of goes back to the Intimidating Presence thing. Mage Adept, reduces magicka and health cost of the mage's guild abilities by 15%. This is big because this thing right here used to be, I think, like 380, so essentially I've reduced this by about 80 magicka. And of course we have increased max magicka and magicka recovery by 1% for each mage's guild's ability slotted. So I only have one, but once again, it's free, so you got to take it. No passive there, don't care. My Dark Elf skills, I've got them all here, and here's the resist fund. Increases fire resistance by 1480. Increases max magicka as well. So that's huge for the Dark Elf, and maybe this is why I can't really see any difference when I'm fighting here. I do have a ton of points into crafting right now. I haven't really put anything in hirelings, which I'm kind of regretting here. But I have level 21. I've got yeah, I'm level 20 right now. 21. I always try to make sure that I can at least create weapon sets at my level and whatnot. So I've got blacksmithing, I've got enchanting, and I've got woodworking. So that covers the basis for the entirety of my my gameplay here with this build. So that's pretty much it for the passives, the skill lineups, all that good stuff. Let's get into the next section here. Alright guys, let's go ahead and go over the add-ons, the food, the boons that I like to use for this build. Now specifically, this game is the add-ons, they're add-ons. I suppose they don't necessarily change the way you play the game. I think that for the most part they add just a little bit more immersiveness in areas that the game didn't really have built into it. So I'm a big fan of add-ons. I don't find that they give you any type of edge per se over the next, say if you're in PvP, I don't find that they tell you whether or not you should be doing certain things at certain times. I think for the most part the game puts it out there. So behind me right now I have a list of all of the add-ons that I currently use in game. Now these are things like, you know, treasure maps and Z-Mini map. I would highly encourage you to grab the Undiscovered add-on. That is a phenomenal add-on. It brings a lot to your gameplay. And it really identifies where you haven't quested yet, which I think is great for leveling purposes. I know a lot of time I hear people like, well, I'm at vet content, but now I've got to grind out my last 5 levels. Well, Undiscovered can fix those issues. Okay, so definitely pick up that add-on. It's a lifesaver there. So when we talk about food and we talk about the way we've designed our attributes and to talk about the gear that we're using, go after food that boosts your max health. Try to stay in that direction as much as possible. It tends to be cheaper than the rest anyway, because all it does is increase your health versus like multiple attributes. The boon, in addition to the health food, you're also going to want to pick up the boon, the Lord. That actually increases your health as well. So once again, really good things to have in this build. I would highly encourage you to have those things. We're going to wrap up this video by discussing future content, specifically veteran level content. I am getting near that point. I've heard good things and bad things regarding Templars in veteran level zones. I've heard that, you know, Templars are just junk. They can't do anything in veteran content. And I hope that's not the case, because I'm really enjoying the class. As you see, the build itself is very diverse. It's a fun build. So I hope I don't lose that moving into the veteran level content. So I'm going to keep an eye on patch notes. ESO is continuously changing based on bugs. Things aren't working as designed. And so I'm going to keep you updated on that, and I'm going to provide you build updates if need be. I will be going back and doing solo content through the dungeons. I like the challenge that it presents. As you know, we don't really gain much by going back through old content, but for the most part, I enjoy it. I like going through it. If I see somebody in zone chat that just needs somebody else, and I'm just walking through, because I generally do all my crafting and the lower level stuff. So if I see anybody that needs help, I'll jump in their party. I'll get them through it, and it saves them time, and it's fun for me. So if you like the video, please subscribe. There's definitely going to be more content in the future. I will have 2 links in the description. One's going to link to the sword and board and dual wield spec. The other will link to the sword and board with the bow and the offhand that we discussed. I have a complete setup for that, as you've seen in the video. If you are looking for a guild, the Beer and Peanuts Guild has been together since 2012. We started out in Guild Wars 2. We have a great time together. This is a good group of people. I enjoy having fun. We're not hardcore players by any means, but we are skilled. We are good at what we do, and we have fun doing what we do. So until next time, guys, I hope you liked the video, and we'll catch you later.